Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have a successful business, all you have to do is literally do the opposite of what Moist Critical is talking about in this video. He could not be more wrong if he tried. It's actually a miracle. I don't know if this is satire. I don't know if he's joking. It doesn't seem like it. He seems like he's pretty riled at this customer. But let me educate Charlie on something, because clearly he's living in a bubble, and not just because of the germs. The reality is that if you're a business and you have competitors, and those competitors have a large social media presence as well, and all of them are sort of at an equilibrium, when you do something like, hey, we don't allow pup cups for dogs at McDonald's, doesn't even matter the guy's reaction. That in and of itself is bad for business. The perception of that, dogs aren't welcome at McDonald's. Do you understand? You have to take your feelings out of it. I don't care how triggered you were that this guy was mildly irritated, that he was inconvenienced, and when she started freaking out and making the situation worse, and by the way, that woman should be fired. She is a detriment to business. You can't have somebody that disagreeable, that aggressive, that argumentative, working in a service industry where the goal is to get the money from the customer, make them feel happy about it, and get them out as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. All she would have had to say is, well, you know what? Usually, we don't allow, pup cups, but we're going to make an exception because your dog looks really good. I'm going to give it to you. That'll be $1. That is the intelligent, effective way to handle a situation. Moist Critical is giving you very bad advice. If you take his brain-rotted advice, which is the advice I would expect from an entitled Twitch streamer, that is disaster. Because you could say, well, technically the bylaws say I don't have to give you anything. And then you can threaten to call the cops. Holy shit. Normally, I wouldn't touch a video like this with a 10-foot pole, but after listening to the vomit and diarrhea coming out of this guy's mouth, this guy is a disaster. This guy doesn't understand the first thing about business. To build a brand. He knows about building brands. How on earth could he build as many brands as he does and not know this fundamental aspect of people? Because that's what the retail industry is. That's what the fast food industry is. It's a people business. You have to put on, you could be having a terrible day. You have to make that person feel special. It's why Chick-fil-A does so phenomenally well. Doesn't matter what time of day you go to Chick-fil-A, the person there is always going to make you feel special. They're going to make you feel nice. That's the purpose. Doesn't matter how they're feeling. Doesn't matter what they may be going through, because at the end of the day, you're at a job. This fat, obnoxious old black lady made everything worse. It wasn't the customer. The customer, short of getting violent, getting loud, screaming at somebody, visibly screaming, is well within the right to do whatever they want. Now, if some kids start pouring food on the floor and throwing milkshakes and acting a damn fool, then you can get upset. This guy was merely asking for an item, was a bit frustrated because he had gotten this item before and for some reason you're denying him, and then you go to threatening the police. If you're like Critical and you think that that's a good idea, that's an appropriate way, you're retarded and you have no business being in any sort of industry that has to do with branding, has to do with food management, has to do with customers. Because you're genuinely retarded. There is no way that you can spin what he says in this video. There is no way that you make it make sense other than Moist Critical just likes to have an opportunity to shit on random people for clicks, which is fine. There's nothing against that. He can do that just like I'm doing this. We have the freedom to talk about what we want to talk about. This is what touched his heart. This is what touched my heart. Because what he's saying here is bad for the people listening to it. Because if you think that the woman in this was in the right, you're out of your mind. No, the manager or I don't know if she's a manager, the cashier, it is her job not only to reflect the brand, but to deal with the customer in a way that makes the brand look good, makes herself look good, makes the food, makes everything look great. Now, is the food great? No. Everyone knows it's a step above sludge. But the branding, the feeling that people get when they leave, the accommodations that you can go through for a customer, all of that is critically important. And what he's saying here is that some disagreeable employee should be allowed to just walk up to a customer, treat him disrespectfully, which she did, absolutely, not listen or acknowledge his request. Oh, well, you know what? That may be something that we do other times. We don't usually do it, but we're going to make an exception here. We're going to charge you $1 for that. Yeah, we love dogs here at McDonald's. You know, we appreciate dogs. That would have changed the fundamental nature of his video. This guy's video would have changed completely if her attitude wouldn't have been so combative, so masculine, so disagreeable. It is her fault entirely because she's the employee or the manager. If she's a manager, that's even worse. If she's an employee, she got bad training and she has a bad attitude and she shouldn't be working there. If she's the manager, oh my God. If you're a manager and you can't de-escalate a situation like that without calling the police, and you think the guy's the problem, let me tell you something. If I went to a fast food restaurant and I asked for a pup cup, and she's like, well, we're not doing pup cups. We don't do that. And I'm like, well, you know, I was here last week and they sort of do that. When's the change? And then she goes, you're combative. I'm going to call the cops. I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably stay there too. I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Now, is it the smartest thing to do? No. The smartest thing would be to get the hell out of there. However, there comes a moment where you're confronted by such sheer stupidity that you go, what the hell am I dealing with? There is no upside to what this manager or what this employee did. The only reason I'm doing this video is to tell people, do not listen to Moist Critical's advice here. Do not, under any circumstance, listen to Moist Critical if you value being good at your job and doing business, especially in fast food. Because if you go in with this entitled mentality that the customer is there to service you, do you know how many times I've had to deal with customers that are just the worst? I want to rip their head. They made a stupid mistake. They said something or did something. I just want to go off on them. But I don't. I never would. As angry or frustrated as I would never do it. Short of somebody coming and threatening violence or doing something which this guy had no intention of doing. Short of that, there is no way I would call the cops on an employee for such a minor infraction. And if this woman is the manager, that is shocking. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to start pushing back against this stuff. These streamers that are not qualified to talk about anything, they are literally random people that were made popular by the internet. No discernible skill or talent to speak of at all for a majority of these people. And they get up there in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and give the advice as terrible as this. Just randomly, off the cuff, for views, he doesn't care, damage done, moving on. The reality is, do not do this. If you are working a job, understand the importance then it looks good for you, it looks good for your brand, it looks good for your company. If you give the guy the pup cup, give the customer what they want. Now, if you have some person that is asking for something unreasonable, like, hey, I want a burger, give me free drink and free fries. Hook a brother up. Your answer to that is obviously no. And if they start getting combative, then in that case you would be correct. But when a customer is saying, hey, you know this little thing that you're aware of where you put a little bit of whipped cream in a cup for my dog that's right here? Yeah, could I pay for that, please? Your answer is always yes. It's always yes. Because it's good for the brand. It's good for you. It's good for everyone. No, it may not be good for her. It may not be good for that disagreeable lady. She may, just hate dogs. Or she may not like that guy. Or she may be, just a not nice, disagreeable person. But at the end of the day, for the sake of the company, the business, the branding, you always say yes. You say yes. If it's a reasonable request, and that was a very reasonable request, you do not do what Moist Critical says. Oh, you tell that guy no. And if he has any sort of lip, you call the police. He's like, yeah, well, they're calling the police because you're not leaving. Yeah, he's not leaving because this dumb, low IQ employee made the situation worse by exaggerating and exasperating the entire incident. I don't know if this is like streamer brain or Twitch brain, but what is this? That you think that the appropriate course of action is the cops should be called on this guy for being a mild inconvenience. Because this woman made the situation worse by not giving the customer what he was willing to pay for, which is clearly something that you can do, which is good for your brand, good for your company. I keep saying that because I have to emphasize it, because apparently people don't get the memo. I have to repeat it 4 or 5 times because people don't apparently understand this. They think that the appropriate thing is to not give the guy the pup cup and have that be that. No, you want the guy to think positively about your brand. You want him to come back. You want him to pay money. Now, I don't know if this is the only thing the guy paid for, but even if it was, it doesn't matter. You give the guy the cup, you give the guy the whipped cream. It's easy. Anyway, I wasted too much time on this topic, but I feel very passionately about these business sort of decisions. If you work at fast food, if you want to be viewed positively, if you actually want to get ahead, the correct thing to do is to give the customer what they want. It doesn't mean that the customer is always right. What it means is that if you're an employee, you're representing a company, and it is your duty and obligation to represent that company as best as you can. Do you really think that after watching that video, that is the best way to handle the situation? The answer is absolutely not. Anyway, that'll do it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Oh, and people who are fans of Moist Critical, if you found this video, if you made it to the end, thank you. Be sure to leave the negative comments and dislikes, and go ahead and subscribe and then unsubscribe just to show me how upset you are at this. But yeah, that'll do it. Thanks.